up, David and Madison? Y'all better thank your lucky stars that you messing around with Michelle's husband and Allan's wife, because baby, had it been a different set of people, y'all would have been up all night picking your damn teeth up off of the floor of every room in that mansion. Every room. Let's get into this video.
Roxiie says we're gonna talk about it.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Roxiie with Roxiie Says, and we're gonna talk about it, child. As y'all already know, Ish really hit the fan in this episode. I don't even know what episode number we're on. I'm so heated and hot, but as you know, we are here for Married at First Sight, season 18, episode whatever, child, okay? Let's get right into this review, but before we do, please don't forget to hit like, comment, and subscribe, y'all. We just hit 32,000 subscribers, and I am so thankful for all of the love that y'all continue to show me. Thank you so much. Let's get right into this review, y'all. All right, so we pick up right where we left off at the couples retreat, and Madison is still talking about, oh, I want to pack my bags and I want to leave. Oh, this is just too much. She's telling Carla that it's so emotionally draining for her. It's just way too much drama. She's tired of talking about it, and she just needs some fun energy. She just wants to have fun. She does apologize to both MM and Michelle for being insensitive, even though it wasn't her issue that they were discussing. It was still a lot for her. Girl, why? Why was it still a lot for you? And how was it still a lot for you by just listening to other people's grievances? You're such a weirdo. So Michelle tells her that she felt dismissed when Madison walked away. And Michelle gets upset and she starts crying because she says that it makes her feel like she's insane for being upset and everyone thinks that it's all her fault. And I can definitely understand Michelle's tears, not out of sadness for her relationship with David, but out of pure frustration, because it's like, look at what he's doing. Are y'all not seeing this? And they're making her feel like her feelings are invalid. But at the same time, Michelle, I can see why the other ladies are even wondering why, or if you should care based on you and David's relationship leading up to this. And also, Michelle, this is your hunch, right? So you're going to have to be the one asking the questions to see it through. Okay, Nancy Drew, you can't put that responsibility on anyone else. So you can't get upset that other people weren't asking any questions. This is your relationship and this is your mystery to solve, okay? But we're going to see that Michelle is definitely up for the challenge. But the ladies do say that the reason why they were quiet was because they wanted to actually hear David's excuses. They weren't necessarily taking his side, and they do let Michelle know that they have her back. They were just letting David dig his own grave, okay? Let him talk, and let him talk himself into that hole. So next we see Allan. He's outside with David, and he's actually telling David that he wasn't right for what he did, but he also doesn't think that he was fully in the wrong. And I'm like, oh, Allan, you say that now. You say that now until you find out how you're involved in this mess, right? Okay, we're gonna get to it. And David is telling Allan, you know, all I needed was a little bit of TLC. I don't even know why Michelle is acting like this. She doesn't even care anyway. And to think that David is venting and talking about receiving TLC from Allan's wife, and he's actually having this conversation with Allan about that. Crazy. Meanwhile, we see Tom and Camille, they're getting ready for bed and they're just thankful that they don't have to deal with any of this drama, okay? So decision day is 8 days away, and we see Juan and Carla, and we see them doing such an unnatural ad for ADT, talking about, oh, we should definitely get ADT for our home. It's such a good service. It's so convenient. I can access it from my cell phone. I'm like, child, how much y'all got paid for that ad? Y'all better have gotten a little bonus. Y'all should have picked Tom and Camille for this. At least it would have been a tad bit more believable, because we all know damn well that Juan and Carla are not moving anywhere together after this experience, okay? So they're going on a pottery date later, and they say that they're looking forward for a day of honest communication. And Carla tells Juan that she loves that they're on the same page with everything, and Juan agrees. And I'm looking at Juan like, are you gonna tell her that you actually don't like her tarot cards and her sage and her crystals? Or are you gonna keep pretending like you do, Jonathan? I got my eye on you. So next we see Michelle. She goes outside to chat with David, and David actually apologizes for hurting her, and he says that that's not who he is, and he's a great man, Savannah. He said he is a great man, and he was raised by great people. And he also apologizes to her for deflecting. He says, look, although I tried to be patient, I still effed up. And Michelle is just like, okay. Then she asked him why it took him so long to apologize and why did he make it seem like it was her fault. And she wants him to answer the question if he actually thinks that it's her fault. Michelle actually has to ask David this question about 3 different times. And finally, in a roundabout way, he still blames Michelle for his actions. He just apologized to her for deflecting, right? But even in his apology, he's still like, yeah, but what I did, even though I'm a grown man and I'm in control of my own actions, it's still your fault. It's still your fault, as if he had no other option than to lie. So Michelle reminds David that he actually acknowledged that he saw a difference in her and he saw that she was actually trying in the relationship, but now he's flipping it and he's saying that she wasn't trying. So she's like, what's the truth? Did you mean what you said then, or do you mean what you're saying now? Do you actually think that I was trying? Child, David says, honestly, no, I never thought that you were trying. And like I said before, I think that Michelle was trying in the end, but it was just way too little and way too late, all right? And we're gonna see that David is the type that if he feels like he's not getting enough attention, oh baby, by day 2, he gonna start messing with somebody. He's gonna start flirting with other women. Like if David is your husband and y'all get into a little disagreement, oh, you better make sure that it's wrapped up by day 2, because his ass is gonna be on Tinder, okay? He's gonna be on Tinder looking for some TLC from someone else. If y'all go on y'all's honeymoon and you get into a little argument, a little disagreement, make sure it's wrapped up by day 2. Make sure it's wrapped up by day 2, because baby, he's gonna be at the gym talking about another woman's body and telling her how good it looks. So next we see Michelle. She asks him about the Tiffany situation and he is still saying that this text message was meant for Tiffany, but Michelle wants proof, and of course he can't show her any because he claims that he deleted the contact and it was only after he magically remembered that he was married, that's when it clicked in his brain and he was like, oh, I shouldn't be speaking to this woman. And then he deleted all the text messages and her contact. Okay, David, but he does say that he was still only texting her for about a week and a half. How convenient that all possible evidence that David has that can prove all of his lies and stories, it's always deleted. It's always deleted. But just like last time, he just wants her to take his word for it and believe it or not. But Michelle reminds him, listen, we have already established that you are a liar. So I need a bit more proof, right? Something tangible, something that I can see. I cannot just take your word for it. And he's like, well, that's on you. What more do you want from me? And Michelle is like, how is that on me? How is it on me when you're the one who keeps lying repeatedly? And of course, this conversation goes nowhere. And Michelle gets up and she's pissed off, so she just goes back inside. I don't know how much more truth Michelle thinks that she's gonna get from David's lying ass. We already know that he will ride a lie out for as long as he possibly can until someone backs his ass up into a corner with the actual truth. And seriously, any woman who is hearing David's explanation should be terrified. What is David gonna do when his future wife gets pregnant and maybe her hormones are out of whack, her emotions are out of whack? Is he gonna go talk to another woman on day 2? What about when the baby comes and she can't give him all that TLC that he needs because there's a damn newborn in the picture? Will it then be okay for him to find that TLC elsewhere? What if there's no baby? What if there's no baby and she just needs to go on a work trip for a week or 2? Will he be able to survive? Will he? Honestly, what David did is a David issue, because from the way that he's speaking about his need for affection, I think that this result would have been the same whether it was with Michelle or with someone else. Whether the woman was being a bitch to him the entire time like Michelle was, or if the woman was being completely kind and nice and sweet to him and maybe she just got in a bad mood for a day or 2. It would have been the same outcome, because this issue is a lack of discipline. It's not just because Michelle is a bitch, but you have people who will allow him to put his lack of discipline and integrity on someone else, as if he's a child and he has no autonomy to just leave a relationship when it's not fulfilling him anymore. And conversations like this is why I feel like Michelle is 1000% allowed to be mad, because every time that he has the opportunity to tell her the truth, not only does he lie even more, but he keeps blaming her for his actions on top of it. It's almost like, you see what you made me do to you? You see what you made me do? I have no control. You made me do that. You're making me look bad. Excuse that if you want to, but that's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. So next we see Michelle in a room and she's chatting with Camille and MM, and she tells them that she still doesn't believe this Tiffany story. She is fixated on Madison. And of course they don't want to believe it because they like Madison and they love David, right? Everyone loves David, and they don't even want to think that they would do something like that. So Michelle tells them the story about the night that the text message was received and how David was with Madison and Allan, but Allan ended up leaving. Now, if you saw my after party review, you got the full story from Carla, where she said that David and Madison had disappeared together for like 25 minutes. Go check out my review for the full details after you finish this video if you haven't already, okay? But Michelle also brings up how Madison got so upset at the dinner table and left because she started voicing her frustrations with David. But why was Michelle's story too much, right? She didn't get up and leave when Emmett was talking about her issues with Akechi. So what was so bad about my story? This is Michelle. What was so bad about my story that she had to run off? And Emmett and Camille were like, girl, you know what? You right about that. So Camille tells her that instead of driving herself crazy, maybe go straight to Madison and ask her. But Michelle feels bad for even approaching Madison because she really has no proof. All she has is her gut feelings, and that's a big accusation. And all of the ladies really feel bad for Allan, of course, because they know how he feels about Madison. So next we see Allison. Child, I don't even want to call these two Allison anymore. I really don't. But next we see Madison and Allan. They go on a go-kart date, and I love me some go-karting. But anyway, after their race, Allan reminds Madison that decision day is on his mind. And you can see how hopeful and serious Allan is during this conversation. And Madison is just laughing like, oh, we've made some progress, but we still have some things to work out, giving this man false hope. And in this episode, more than ever, I noticed that when Madison is lying about something, she's gonna laugh and laugh and laugh. And Allan asks her, is there any part of you that makes you think that you can say, I see a future with this guy. I really like this guy. And let me just take a gamble, say yes, and see where it goes. And Madison gives another roundabout answer talking about, well, I'm still here, right? So, I'm here, aren't I? And Allan is like, yeah, you're here, but do you see us moving forward past decision day? And she says that she's just enjoying the good times, and that's what she wants to focus on. This obviously isn't a reassuring answer. And just like with MM and Akechi, Madison keeps using a lot of words to tell him, no, I don't want to be with you. And he's still so hopeful. And I'm just like, poor Allan. I feel really bad for him. And Madison, you could have been straight up in this moment and just told him, look, I don't think that we're going to make it past decision day. You're a great guy. I'm just not feeling it like that. You've had plenty of opportunities to do that. But in the same breath, Allan, you see that this woman is not feeling you. And we're also going to see later that you knew that she wasn't feeling you and you still wanted to move forward with her. Okay. So next we are on this pottery date with Juan and Carla. And in Juan's confessional, he says that last night's drama made him realize that although him and Carla aren't perfect, he's very thankful that he's on this journey with her because she's made it enjoyable, and he feels blessed to have been able to build this bond with her. And I think it's because Carla has already accepted the fact that nothing romantic or nothing real is going to come from this. So she's just enjoying the experience of this friendship, and she's enjoying not having to pay rent for a few months, okay? Period. So child, we see Juan, he's slapping and palming and sticking his finger all up in that clay, and he's saying what a natural he is. And I know Carla was jealous. Like, damn, this piece of clay is getting more action than me. What's that about? So next they show us a clip of David and Madison back at the house in the kitchen, taking shots and trying their best to act like they're just casual friends. I said, girl, bye. Next we see Tom and Camille. They're in the hot tub and they're speaking about how optimistic they both are for decision day. So Tom asks Camille if she's ready to be a parent because his family really wants him to have a kid. They were so excited when they first met Camille, and she said that she does want to have kids. So Camille says that she feels like she'll be ready in about 1.5 to 2 years because she still has some career goals that she wants to achieve. And I said, yes, Camille, don't let anyone rush you. Don't let anyone rush you, because if it doesn't work out, your life as the woman, as the mother, will be derailed way more than Tom's life, okay? And I ain't arguing with anybody about that shit. So anyway, Camille then tells Tom that she wants to be more stable, but she feels like she can have the career and the family life, and she has always wanted to be a mother. And Tom says that he does want to be a father, but he waited so long because he's so nervous and he doesn't want to mess his child up. Now remember, Tom was adopted, right? His mom had to give him up when she was like 16 years old. So I can only imagine how badly Tom does not want to mess up being a parent. And being a parent is such a huge responsibility. And they also discuss how a child will change the dynamic of their relationship and will take a lot of their freedom away, which is exactly why Camille wants them to be able to have a couple of years being married, right? With their free time and with their expendable funds, and just to enjoy it before putting a baby in the picture. She wants more of the concrete things such as debt and their living situation to be settled first. And I'm like, exactly, Camille, let's figure out where y'all gonna live first. first, because you couldn't even get a concrete answer about that in the last episode. But he talking about pushing some kids out. But I do love that they're even having this conversation, because it does show that they're responsible people. They're planners. They care about having a child. They care about making sure that that child has a good life, and they do see some type of a future with each other. Okay. So child, next we see Allan. He goes to ask Michelle if she wants to talk. And when they do, he tells her that he just wants to hear her out and give her some advice and some reassurance on how she's feeling. And he says that he's felt dismissed in his past relationships, so he wants to make sure that she feels heard. And like I've said before, I love Allan. He is such a guy, he's a girl's guy. He is such a girl's guy. He's very observant. He's very attentive. He saw that Michelle was frustrated and felt unheard, and he took the time to sit with her and make sure that she knows that he sees her. Allan is such a sweetheart, which is what pisses me off even more about this entire situation, but we gonna get there. So he brings up his relationship with Madison as a means to give an example of perseverance in a relationship and realizing how much he actually cares about her. And he tells Michelle that if he was to lose her, it would really crush him. And Michelle is just looking at him like, who, this poor guy, this poor guy. So she tries to somehow bring up the situation, and she asks him if he noticed anything weird on the night that they were all out. And he was like, no, I didn't notice anything weird. And she's like, well, David said that you were there, or he was with you. And Michelle retells the story, letting Allan know that she thinks that David meant to send this text message to someone else who was also at the bar. And Allan is like, am I missing something here? Am I missing something? And we can see that this is the first instance when the ball starts rolling in Allan's head, okay? So child, now we see them playing a game. It's called Who's First? And you know that group games never go well. They never go well. So they collected all the questions from everyone in the group, and they're going to be asked anonymously. So the first question is, who's most likely to die first in a horror movie? And Tom says Allan, because Allan investigates things. So his nosy ass is going to get caught first, all right? That is a good, reasonable explanation, right? So next they ask David, and David says Michelle. And when they ask why, he's just like, because she would just get caught. She would just get caught. See, David, they asked who you think would die, not who you wish would die. Okay, I think he misheard the question. Child, so next they ask who's most likely to be in an orgy, and I think we all said it at the same time, Carla. Carla, and they say it's because she's very sexual and vulgar, and she actually wanted to have a group tantric session. Another answer and explanation that actually makes sense. You see how that works, dumb David? We then learned that Allan sees Juan as a little pool cabana boy who could be a stripper if he wanted to. Child, then they get a question about who's most likely to be into adult latex play, and Camille is like, I don't know who submitted this question, but it's definitely giving Allan. And it is him, because he has to explain to them what he means and what it is. And let me just say this. I think that Allan wants that Camille treatment, right? All the whips and the chains that Camille wants to use on Tom would be very welcomed by Allan. That and then some, all right? I get that vibe from Allan. So next they ask who's most likely to get caught cheating. And Michelle is like, I'll start David, because he's already doing it. I said Michelle. I said Michelle. And we see Madison, baby, she took a swig of that drink. She took a swig of that drink on that answer. And baby, I was just waiting for her to get up and run out of that living room the same way that she ran away from that dinner table the other night, child. But even Juan and Madison say David is most likely to cheat. And then Tom says himself. And Camille looks over at him like, excuse me? Excuse me. And he's like, well, because I'm not a good liar and I've been caught cheating before, but that doesn't mean that I'm actually gonna do it again. I'm just saying, Camille, keep your eye on Tom, okay? Keep your eye on him. So they ask who's most likely to swap their partners, and Allan and Madison both say MM because she technically has no partner, right? And Juan says Madison based on some conversations that they've had. And I'm like, what? Jonathan, what type of conversations have y'all had that makes you think that Madison is into swapping partners? Very interesting. So Michelle is clearly annoyed, and she gets up and she leaves the living room, and Allan follows her, and she tells him that she just doesn't think that David is telling her the truth, and she has suspicions, but she doesn't want to say them just yet because she has no proof. And we see that Allan has been thinking about what Michelle told him earlier, and he's trying to piece things together from the other night because he didn't know that the text message was sent on that particular night. So now he's retracing his steps, and he's like, but it was just us there. I didn't see David talking to any other women outside of the group. And Michelle is like, Yes, exactly. She's trying to get Allan to come to the conclusion without her having to actually say it, right? And he's like, do you know something? Like, what are you trying to say? So Michelle is like, didn't you leave early that night? And then David was with Madison and Carla alone. And Allan is like, okay. And then he finally picks up what Michelle is putting down. And he's like, I see where you're going with this, but I just can't see it. I can't see it. I can't imagine that happening. But it looks like he's trying to fight the thought. But Michelle is trying to get him to see it. She's trying to help him to see it. She's painting the picture for him. And she's like, well, they do work out together. Do you think that they have each other's numbers? And that's when Allan was like, oh God. Oh God. And he literally looked like he wanted to throw up. He really did. So Michelle's like, let me go in for the kill, right? And she's like, do you see how that text message could have been sent to the wrong M? Madison, Michelle, Madison. And in real time, you can see that it's all coming to Allan, and he doesn't want to believe it at all. But he does say that he needs more time to process it. And Michelle can see it on Allan's face. His eyes are welling up with tears. His face is getting really red. So she's trying to lessen the blow by saying, look, I may just be spiraling. I have no proof of any of this. I'm just trying to pick your brain. And Allan keeps saying that he thinks that Michelle is wrong. But you can also tell that in this moment, he is lying to himself, and he starts getting so choked up about it. And he's telling Michelle how much he cares for Madison. And the thought of this just disgusts him. And he keeps saying that he genuinely doesn't think that that's what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, Allan, that's what you're saying. But your body is showing the complete opposite. It really is. And I would be lying if I said I didn't feel so bad for Allan in this moment. I felt so bad for him because you can just see the hurt all over his face, y'all. You really can. And he's trying his best to fight the thoughts off. But from what Michelle is telling him to the dreams that he's been having, right? He doesn't even want to believe the words that are coming out of her mouth. And he definitely doesn't believe the words that are coming out of his own mouth. And Michelle does apologize for bringing it up, especially if it turns out not to be true. But Allan says straight up, if it is true, oh, I'm going to flip my shit. I'm going to flip my shit. So next, child, we see Michelle. She pulls up on Madison. She pulls her aside and she asks her opinion on the David situation and the lies from his cousin and then the food and then Tiffany, all of that. But there's no proof and there's no photo. And she tells Madison that she feels like he texted someone from across the bar instead. And she knows that he was with her, Carla, and Allan that night. So she asks Madison if the text message was meant for her. And Madison says, I don't think so. I mean, it shouldn't have been, huh? And Michelle is like, you don't think so? It shouldn't have been? Or do you know for sure that it was not for you? And Madison is like, well, why would it be for me? It shouldn't have been for me. And Michelle asks her if she got a text or anything from David that night. And she's like, no, I barely saw David. We were there with Carla for like 15 minutes and we were all together. She does fail to mention that her and David disappeared for 25 minutes though. You forgot that part. And Michelle asks if they have each other's number or if they've texted. And Madison says that they do have each other's number, but they only text about meeting up at the gym. Remember that, okay? She says they have each other's number, but they only text about meeting up at the gym. And Madison is giggling like something is funny. Child, that alone would have pissed me off. That alone would have pissed me off because the way I would have asked her, girl, what the is so funny? Seriously. But we know that that's her tell when she's lying, right? Just like when she told Allan that other night when she came home at 4:30 in the morning that she was out for tacos and it was just the funniest thing to her. And she tries to get big and bad. And she asks Michelle, like, girl, do you want to go through my phone? And in this moment, Michelle says no. She says no. But Madison says that she's really sorry that Michelle even feels like this and that she has to even go through this. And Michelle is like, don't worry. It's cool. It's cool. But Michelle doesn't believe a damn word that is coming out of Madison's mouth, okay? And Madison's response to Michelle's questioning made her even more suspicious because her saying, I don't think it was for me means that there's a possibility that it was for you, boo-boo, okay? Then we see Madison. She goes and she speaks to Allan and he's in bed scrolling through his phone. He's breathing hard as hell and he doesn't even make any eye contact with Madison. And it's clear that he's trying to calm himself down, right? He's processing his thoughts and he doesn't want to be around anyone. But this is very interesting because Madison almost never goes to Allan when there's an issue. She's the one who always runs away. But the guilt is eating her ass up so bad that she has to go speak to him. And she's trying to get ahead of everything. But it's too late, boo-boo. The seed has already been planted. The seed has already been planted. So Allan tells her that he needs some space. So then she leaves. And in Allan's confessional, he says that that seed is just growing and growing. And the more he thinks about it, the more he realizes that the possibility that Michelle has proposed is actually way more likely than he's willing to admit. Baby, Allan is pissed. Allan is pissed. I'm like, Madison, leave that man alone. Get out that room. Let him cool off, okay? So next we see Juan and Carla, and they have a little freestyle jam session outside. And I'm starting to love these two together as friends, okay? They do vibe really well. And the whole time that Carla is out there singing with Juan, I'm like, Carla, if you don't take your ass inside and speak to Michelle and tell her that David and Madison disappeared for 25 minutes the night that y'all were out, I cannot wait for that to be brought up. So then we see Michelle ask David to talk. Child, Michelle said that she gonna get to the bottom of this shit tonight, okay? So she brings up the text message again, and David is like, well, I just said that I'm done with this situation. I already told you I'm done with this conversation. And Michelle is like, well, I'm not done with it because I don't believe you. And she tells him that she spoke to Madison about the text, and now she wants to know if the text was meant for Madison. And David gives her the chillest, no. The chillest no that I've ever seen before. He just shrugs and he's like, no. And Michelle is like, okay, that's it. You're not even shocked or curious that I'd even make that assumption or why I would think that it's Madison specifically. And he's like, no, because I'm done with this conversation. And if that's what you think, then what else can I say? That's it. I've already told you all the truth. You can either believe it or not. Now, let me say this. As much as I can't stand Akechi's ass, I do believe that in this situation, by now, Akechi would have done so, yeah, I meant to text Madison because you're aggressive and I don't like you questioning me. I can't stand you, so I texted someone else. I think he would have did that. Now, part of it would obviously be because he deliberately wants to hurt and embarrass right? But I don't see even Akechi taking this lie as far as David is trying to take it. And Michelle is like, if someone presented me with such a ridiculous accusation, I would be outraged. I'd be like, who? Oh, hell no, never, ever, ever. And she is right. The fact that David is trying so hard to look so chill and unbothered by her mentioning Madison makes him look even more guilty. And he's like, well, I told you everything. Do you have any more questions? Being an asshole about it on top of it. And Michelle says, no, it looks like I already got all my answers. And David is like, okay, then I'll go back to watching baseball. Boy, bye. So then Madison, she goes to Michelle because Madison is making her rounds at this point because her conscience is eating her the up, okay? And at least Madison has enough sense to ask Michelle why she's accusing her of being with David, because she's like, Carla was there. You didn't ask Carla. And Michelle is like, no, I didn't ask Carla because I know you're David's type. White with blonde hair. Michelle was so straight up in this conversation. And she says, look, at first I didn't want to believe it, but the way that you responded to my question, it gave me no resolution at all. And didn't I tell y'all that Madison and David are so similar? Because she says the same line. Look, I don't know what else to tell you. You can believe me or not. I don't know what else to say. And the way that I would have flipped on Madison, like, girl, you came here to tell me that I can believe you or not. Ooh, calm down, girl. Hey, it's gonna be okay because Madison, you got the right one. Oh, girl, you got the right one, Madison, because if you don't care if Michelle believes you or not, then why did you even pull her aside for this conversation? If not, but to prove your case. Girl, don't shake the table unless you want to get shook, okay? But Madison reiterates that they only talk about the gym and they don't text on social media. And Madison also says, I can prove it. Yes, I can. I can prove it. So she runs upstairs to get her phone. Girl, you've already had how much time to go through your phone and delete stuff? Now you want to talk about I can prove it and you running upstairs to go get your phone like you really about to do something? So she brings the phone back and she opens it up. She opens up Instagram and baby, David's name came up first in her most recent searches. David's Instagram came up first, but when they go to the DMs, there are no DMs. So either their DMs were on vanish mode or she deleted all of the DMs. So then Madison is like, you can also go through my text messages too. I have nothing to hide. Look, she's scrolling. She's like, look, no messages from David. Madison, you idiot. You idiot. You obviously deleted all the text messages too. And I was so happy that Michelle clocked it. And Michelle was like, well, didn't you say that y'all would send text messages about going to the gym, about meeting up? Right? Didn't you say that? But now there aren't any text messages, not even those text messages. Do you not understand why that is suspicious to me? So did you delete the text messages? And Madison is like, no, I didn't delete them. I told you that we texted weeks ago. Okay, so then where are those text messages, Madadum? You dummy. You didn't even leave the text messages about the gym. You just deleted the whole thread. Girl, you just as dumb as David. What the hell? Michelle was like, got him. And just like David did in a previous argument he had with Michelle, Madison asks Michelle why she didn't come to her sooner, why she didn't bring it up sooner. Remember when David did that same shit? Child, are these two related? Are these two related? They are so similar. And Michelle is annoyed because everything looks like a lie. And Madison says Michelle is making her look bad. Just like how Michelle is making David look bad too. Michelle is just out here making everybody look bad. Madison ain't doing shit. David ain't doing shit. It's Michelle who's making them look bad. Child, bye. And Madison is getting upset because Michelle still doesn't believe her. And Michelle is like, you're right, I don't believe you. And what about it? So Madison, she gets up like, okay, well then there's nothing that I can say. And I was just waiting for Camille to pop up like, and isn't? And isn't. So child production then goes to Madison and she's trying to play victim and she's like, I don't know what's wrong. Like, I'm showing her the proof and she just won't believe me. What do I do? And production was like, girl, is there any truth to what she's saying? And child Madison says, I don't know. Oh, you don't know. Now you don't know. And she's like, look, I never meant to hurt anyone. And I know that this is going to break Allan's heart into a million pieces. Girl, did you really just try to lie to production? Did you really just try to lie to production? I hope they have y'all on camera sneaking out of y'all's apartments and they expose y'all asses. They know that you're lying, which is why they came to speak to you after your conversation with Michelle. Child, so then after that, we see Carla go to Michelle and she asks her what's going on. And she just tells her what happened and how Madison showed her their messages and DMs and everything's deleted now. And Carla says, look, what happens in the dark is always going to come to light. And Michelle tells her that her gut is saying that she is not wrong about this. If she is, she will have no problem apologizing, but she truly believes that she's not wrong. And at this point, I'm literally yelling at my computer like, Carla, please tell her what happened at the club. Why won't you tell her? So child, next we see Madison and she asks David to speak and I'm like, oh boy. And I was pissed, honestly, at David's demeanor during the start of this conversation because he was really trying to give off the impression like Madison was bothering him and like he was annoyed with this conversation before it even started. Baby, Madison is about to pour her heart out to David. And the way, if I was Madison, if that was David's body language, the way I wouldn't have told him shit, because why are you looking at me like I'm not supposed to be speaking to you right now? Why are you making it seem like I'm a nuisance right now? Oh boy, you got me up. You really do. So Madison tells David that they immediately had chemistry. And I mentioned that on their first gym date when they were still on the honeymoon, when David flirted with her and he told her, oh, when I first saw you and I saw your body, I just knew that you would be my gym partner. He was flirting with Madison since the honeymoon. Y'all sure that night that David slept outside on the honeymoon, that he really didn't go on the beach with Madison and they was doing some things? Huh? So for the people saying that David had to endure Michelle's bitchiness for so long and she was rejecting him for so long and he only started acting a fool after weeks and weeks of trying. Bullshit. He was already jumping ship a few days in, 2-3 days in. So he had no intention on fighting for his relationship with Michelle. That was all an act, okay? He couldn't go through the fire with Michelle for 2 to 3 days before he started flirting with another woman. 2 to 3 days. Y'all gonna do mental gymnastics to excuse that too? Anyway, Madison says that she wants to be honest with David since they had fun on their gym dates and they always had great conversations. And she just comes out with it and she's like, look, I like you a bit more than I should and a bit more than I want to admit. Okay. But I just want to be honest about it because I don't think that I can continue in my marriage with Allan because it's not fair to him. And I know it's messy, but I think that what we have can really be something. And David is like, well, damn, I want to be honest with you too. I feel the same connection and I appreciate you you because you gave me that attention that I needed. I needed that attention. And they're laughing about it. And David is like, well, have you told Allan? Because if not, then that's the first step. Now, I could be wrong. But these two are trying to make it seem like this is the very first time that they've had a conversation like this. And like this is all just something new and surprising. These feelings just came out of nowhere. But I don't believe that for 1 second, because David was already sending text messages talking about he want to eat you up, girl. So you're telling me that he sent that text message without any inkling that y'all were more than just friends? Huh? Just randomly, he texts you something like that out of nowhere when y'all have been strictly professional and platonic this entire time? Bullshit. Okay? This conversation was to try to make their situation seem new and innocent, like it came out of nowhere. Meanwhile, y'all been messing around since the honeymoon, okay? So Madison says, look, it doesn't mean that we have to be together right now because I want to process it first, but I want to say it to you out loud since I've never said it. And she keeps trying to make that part clear. I've never said it before. We've never had this conversation. Stop it. Y'all are full of shit. And to think that Madison is able to have this conversation with David, but Allan just asked you yesterday and you still lied and gave him false hope. Why you couldn't tell Allan this? Why couldn't you have been real and honest with Allan? Why? Why keep leading him on when this man obviously cares about you? Oh my goodness. So she says that they have a better chance of getting to know each other now. And David says that he can definitely see Madison being his ride or die. And that's what he truly feels. And I'm like, yeah, until you stop paying him attention, Madison, then he's going to be right back on Tinder messaging Danielle, Roxiie, and Tiffany. He also says that seeing her in the gym daily always made his day. And then he finally says it. He finally says what we all knew. The text message that he sent to Michelle was actually meant for you, Madison. I said, child. And she's like, me? Oh my gosh, why? And she's like, look, it's going to be very hurtful, but this is what's best for us. We didn't come here to make friends, okay? We came here for love. And although it's unconventional, this is where we are now. And they share a hug, and they do acknowledge that things are about to go from worse to worse, okay? So here's the thing about this situation. It's not normal. It's not a regular type of marriage, okay? You're marrying someone that you don't know. I totally understand if you first meet your partner and you're not attracted to them, but you see someone else who catches your eye and who you find attractive. That is 1000% normal and understandable. We are human, right? And it's actually even more likely in a situation like this because there's nothing really holding you to the person who you've been paired with. Yes, you are married to the person, but you've only known them for 1 day. You've only known them for 1 day, which is why I think it should have been even easier for both David and Madison to cut ties with Michelle and Allan because they don't even know these people at this point, right? So the lying, the sneaking around was so unnecessary in my opinion. Y'all could have nipped this in the bud. Y'all could have settled this shit way sooner than this. Yeah, it still would have been effed up, but it would have been way easier for both Michelle and Allan to deal with, as opposed to y'all staying in the relationship, telling your partners every day that you want it to work. Meanwhile, y'all are flirting and doing God knows what behind your partner's backs. And on top of that, y'all are making your partners feel like they're crazy for feeling the way that they're feeling. Child, so next we see David, and he asks Allan to talk, and Allan is already pissed. He's already pissed, and he starts pouring himself a drink, okay? So David is beating around the bush until Allan says, just spit it out. And he says, Madison and I have a connection that you two don't have and that I don't have with Michelle. And he says, look, it wasn't on purpose. It was just natural. There wasn't anything physical. And it started with us actually going to the gym and talking about you and Michelle. That's how it started. We were talking about you guys, and we just realized that we had a really strong vibe. And baby, the way that Allan's leg was shaking, I thought he was about to kick David in his face. And baby, while David is still pleading his case, Allan cuts him off and he's like, you know what? I really don't give a fuck about any of that. I said, whoa, Allan. He's like, look, I saw you as a friend. And David really looks this man in the face and says, I still see you as a friend. And Allan was like, nah, fuck you. Allan is heated. And David is like, okay, bro. So Allan starts crying and he tells David, I knew from day one she didn't want me. And I put unwarranted trust in her. And Allan says he wanted to be with her. And he told her, look, the second that you don't want to be with me, Please just tell me. Just tell me. But did she do that? No. She lied to me. She bullshitted me. Honestly, right now, it's both of y'all. Both of y'all. She knew from day 2, 3, 4, 5 that she didn't want me. And I saw it and I struggled and I asked her. He didn't want to quit on Madison. He asked her daily and every day she lied. And that's the problem. Why not just break up instead of lying, Madison? Why not just break up? And David then tries to claim that him and Madison were in the same positions as Allan and Michelle were. They're dealing with the same thing. They too wanted things to work and they were just trying to figure it out. Yeah, David, but the difference is Allan and Michelle weren't sneaking around behind y'all's back. What's not clicking? It's not the same thing. Allan then asks David if they slept together, and David is like, no. We never slept together. It's only a friendship. That's all it is. And she gives me attention, and she knows more about me than my own wife. So Allan looks David right in the eye, and he says, do you see a real relationship forming between you and Madison? And David says, honestly, bro, yes, I do. If I'm being completely honest, the answer to that question is yes. And Allan says, then go for it. Because I'm done. And he gets up and he walks away. Child, Allan comes back into the house and he is so upset. He is so upset. And we see she follows him out to calm him down. Because at this point, he's like, I'm leaving. I got to get out of here. And she just hugs him. And baby, the way I started tearing up during that scene, I started tearing up because I'm thinking of Allan's dreams, and I'm also thinking about Allan's ex cheating on him, right? And how that broke him. And Madison sat there and listened to him tell that story and still didn't say, you know what, Allan, I have to be honest with you. The same way that she was just able to pour her heart out to David for the first time, is the same way that when Allan told her that story, she could have said, you know what? Let me be honest with you, Allan. I'm not going to be able to move forward in this relationship. I have feelings for someone else, okay? It still would have hurt, but if she did it sooner, it would have been better. Because if we're being honest, I know some people are upset about Michelle going in. If Michelle didn't stay on these two people's asses, there is no way that they would have owned up to it. They wouldn't be coming clean. They wouldn't have admitted anything. Let's be clear. They would have continued doing exactly what they had been doing. Texting each other, DMing each other, meeting up at the gym, going out for tacos, all of that shit. They wouldn't have came clean on their own. So at this point, Juan comes out and Allan is still pissed and he's telling both Juan and look, I want to hurt somebody. But you know, positive Jonathan is telling him, look, just breathe. The beautiful thing about life is that it always goes on. Listen, Jonathan, sometimes people don't want to hear that positive shit. I told you about it. I told you about that toxic positivity. Let Allan feel his feelings, okay? As long as he's not hurting anyone, let Allan process those feelings. They are valid and he has every right to feel them in this moment. That's what you do. You mask your true feelings with this toxic positivity. We already spoke about that in a previous review. Don't nobody want to hear your Lucky Charms ass speech right now. If that's what you want to say, take your ass inside, Jonathan. We don't got time for it right now, okay? But Allan is pissed because he's like, Madison was blaming his attractiveness, his clothes, and other superficial things. He's like, if this happened a day ago, then I could understand. But this isn't new. And that's what I'm saying. That's the part of it. He's like, I've been pouring my heart out to her, even though I knew she didn't feel the same. I just spent $3,000 on new clothes for this bitch. I said, whoa, Allan is mad, okay? Allan is mad. And when he says that, both and Juan, they were like, okay. All right, let's calm down. Let's keep the respect. Let's keep the integrity. He's like, I am keeping my integrity. I am keeping my respect, but I'm mad. I'm upset. And they're like, look, don't let her shake you that much. And at this point, Allan is like, look, I don't want to see her. I don't want to see her face. Her and David, they can have each other. And he says that he's going home. And they're like, you can't drive like this. You can't drive like this. And he low-key, high-key exposes Madison for lying in this scene. He's like, I'm not driving. I wouldn't do that. And they're like, oh, okay. He's like, I know homegirl tried to paint the picture that I'm the type of person who would drive like this, but that's not me. I've never been like that. Child, when he called Madison homegirl, I was cracking up. But Allan just wants to go get his stuff and go home to his dog, okay? That's all he wants to do in this moment. Child, so we see Allan. He goes back in the house to get his things, and they get Madison to see if he actually wants to have a conversation with her. And she's going over to him, right? She's about to go downstairs, child, but Allan is downstairs kicking and punching cabinets. So they take Madison. They're like, okay, no, not right now. Not right now. Right now is not the time to speak to Allan, Madison. And Allan, he goes and he talks to Juan, and he's still pissed, and he's just venting, and he's like, look, generally, people like me. Everyone that I meet, they like me. And just because she doesn't like me, that's fine. Life will go on. But Allan also says that he could see it in the way that she looked at him. He says, Madison looks at me with disgust. And to that, Allan, I have to say, here's where you also should be the one who could have ended the relationship, okay? If you've been seeing this, you should have bowed out as well. Or I'm hoping that you at least were going to say no on decision day, because if not, then that means that you are willing to stay in a relationship with someone who you said you knew didn't want you from day two, and looks at you with disgust. And I honestly think that if y'all made it to decision day and Madison said yes, you would have said yes too. You would have said yes to. Just from the conversation that y'all had when y'all were go-karting, you had so much hope in your eyes, Allan, for someone who you're saying you knew didn't want you since day two. And if that's the case, you also need to go back and see the lady, baby. You need to go see the lady. So Michelle comes in and she asks him if he's okay. And he tells her, look, I don't want to say anything too out of pocket because he already called Madison a bitch. He's like, I don't want to say anything too out of pocket. So let me just try to be quiet right now. I don't want to say anything. But he does tell Michelle multiple times that she was right. And Michelle asks him, oh, did Madison tell you? And I'm like, Michelle, give it a rest for now. Okay, you see this man is upset. Go do something. Go do something. Shit. But Allan does keep talking, and he was like, he's so disgusted because he gave Madison so many opportunities to be truthful with him, and she just didn't do it. And Michelle apologizes because she says that she didn't want to be right in this situation. But Allan does credit it to a woman's intuition, and he's like, my mom always told me about a woman's intuition and how strong it is. And Allan says that he's done, and he's tired of putting effort into people who don't put the same effort into him, and he's just over it, and he leaves. It's a really sad scene, right? So after Allan leaves, we see David go to Michelle, and before David can even open up his mouth, Michelle is like, do you want to say something to me? Michelle is not playing. Michelle had me cracking up this entire episode. I can't lie. She had me cracking up. She like, so do you want to say something to me? And he's like, I apologize. She like, for what? He's like, for everything. She's like, well, what's everything? He's like, everything I lied about. She's like, well, what did you lie about? I'm like, Michelle, get his ass. She is not letting up on this man. She is not letting up. And I'm not mad at her at all. Make him say the shit. Make him say it as boldly as he lied to you about it. He needs to be just as bold with his apology, okay? So he finally says it. Okay, I lied about the food picture. I lied about Tiffany. It was all a lie, and the text was actually meant for Madison. And Michelle is vindicated in this moment, all right? She has her arms crossed, and she's like, oh, so you were just okay with making me look completely crazy in this situation. And that's why Michelle is so upset. That is why she wanted the truth, because David tried to make her look like she was crazy when he knew damn well that he was lying the entire time. I would have stayed on his ass the same damn way, because who you playing with? You're not about to play with me. And with a straight face, David looks at her and he says, I didn't make you look crazy. Oh my God. Oh my God. And he still thinks that he's a great guy because he was never malicious when he was lying. Do y'all see how the goalpost has now moved? Before, David said that he was a great guy because he never lied to Michelle and he always kept it real with her. It was just on her because she wouldn't believe him. But now, because his lie has been exposed, now the new goalpost is, yeah, I lied, but it's not like I had malicious intent when I was lying to you. So I'm still a great guy. Boy, if you don't get the f*** up out of here, seriously, don't let people play with you like that. Don't let people play with you like that. David is still playing in Michelle's face, and he's not done yet, okay? He claims that he still wanted the relationship to work, and Michelle's like, I'm good. You could go hook up with my friend now. And he goes back to blaming Michelle, and he's like, well, at least she asks me questions. She knows more about me than you do. And she's like, okay, got it. Do you need anything else from me? I love the energy that Michelle is giving David. She's like, all right, do you need anything else? And he's like, nope. And he just walks away. Child, in Michelle's confessional, she says that he is literal trash. She's like, David is trash. He's not a man. He has no loyalty. He has no integrity. Not even for me, but for his friend, Allan, right? She's like, forget me. You lied to your friend, Allan. You were messing around with your friend's wife. And he is the opposite of everything that he claims that he is. So then Michelle, she goes to Madison and she's like, do you have anything to say to me? Michelle is making her rounds tonight. And Madison is like, okay, well, do you actually want to have a conversation? Or are you coming at me like this with guns blazing? And Michelle is like, let's go. Let's have the conversation. And baby, that's where the episode ends. So child, we see next week, Michelle still isn't done. Michelle ain't done because now she wants to know if David did in fact eat Madison. So we also see Carla telling Madison that she's grimy and dirty. Well, we know, how editing is sometimes, so I don't know if Carla is actually saying that to Madison, but that's what it looks like. We also see Akechi walking out of a meeting with MM and the experts, and we also see Dr. Pia clocking in for work, and she tells David straight to his face, well, David and Madison, she tells them straight to their face that they are lying about being intimate. I cannot wait for next week's episode. Thank you all so much. If you made it this far, make sure that you hit like, get in the comments, let me know all of your thoughts, all of your predictions. Don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Baby, Love is Blind is starting on Friday, and y'all already know how we do when it's time for Love is Blind. And I'm also reviewing Ready to Love. Thank you again so much for 32,000 subscribers. I'm going to chat with y'all down in the comments, and I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Bye!
Roxiie says we're gonna